A warm welcome back to the Forensics Detailing channel. Do not forget to subscribe for your detailing how-tos and tips and product reviews. Now, in this video, we're going to attempt to prep and refinish a very old, worn leather seat. Refinishing means repainting. But before we can repaint, we have to address some of the underlying issues. Well, some of the bits have just got deep cracking in it, which is actually fine. We can fill that, smooth it all down, primer it and paint it. Some of the original BMW paint is lifting away and it's pulling off of the surface, the skin of the leather, if you like. So you're going back to bare unprocessed material. So we have to try and clear up some of that debris before we paint it. The wear areas are still getting hammered on the car, so there's going to need a little bit of filler over those high contact areas and the previous repairs that we've done. And on the back here, there's lots of kind of cracking and stretching from my weight going in the car. So again, we're going to need to use filler before we primer and then paint and then top coat. It's very important, I think, when you do this repair yourself that you do use the top coat. The DIY solution from Geist is a system that contains all of like the binders and glossing agents and everything, so the paint system you put down is tougher than just putting raw paint. But the professional repair method uses the primer, then your paint layers, and then a top coat in a similar fashion to how you would repaint a car almost. And by spraying that additional top coat on, I'm hoping that I get a bit more longevity out of this repair. So we need to get stuck in, guys. Phase one is to do the preparation, which involves degreasing, deep cleaning, a little bit of sanding, and then degreasing again. And after that, we're ready to then start filling and doing some of the more involved prep. So let's get started. So in this video, we're using the Geist Pro Cleaner surfactant and this little pump foamer. So we're not wetting out the leather much or soaking the leather. And we're using it with this Geist leather brush, guys. So you can see I'm just dabbing the surfactant on in a blob and just working it around. Now, Geist also have a milder cleaner, which is algae or plant-based. The difference is between this Pro one and the algae one. The algae one is perhaps milder. It can stay on the surface and it will never damage the leather, whereas the Pro grade one, you need to use it, clean, and get it off. Okay, so perhaps the algae mild cleaner is better for maintenance cleans. Perhaps the Pro grade one is better for a deep prep clean like we're doing here. Once I've cleaned every area of this seat with the brush and the leather cleaner, then I just go over it with a microfiber cloth, and I'm getting lots of paint transfer. And I just like to use a light spritz of water. I'm not trying to soak the leather out, but I just find it thins the surfactant and just helps me remove it when I'm doing that wipe down. So phase one in terms of cleaning is done, and now we're going to go on to degreasing. So the next step is using the Geist degreaser. That gets rid of any trace oils or grease that's left on the surface of the leather. A bit like with car cleaning, surfactants are good for a certain level of cleaning, but you have kind of panel wipes and things like that. This is the equivalent of a panel wipe for leather, if you like, and it's just going to mean that it's absolutely squeaky clean, and that's going to help the primer and then the paint layers bond to the surface a little bit better. We will be repeating this process because after degreasing, we're going to sand, which generates dust. So after the sanding process, we'll just do a very quick further degreasing wipe down to pick up any kind of loose particles of paint that are on there from the sanding process. So next up, guys, we're using the soft Geist sanding pad. We're not flattening the paint like you do with a car. What we're doing is just trying to get it nice and smooth. It is giving it a key, but it's also going to remove any little kind of loose bits and high bits and just give us a flatter surface prior to filling in all the cracks. And then after that, we'll be sanding again. So this is light. I'm not pressuring into the leather. I'm not trying to tear up all the old paint, like I say. So just think of this as giving it a light clean almost. Okay guys, so now the surface has been degreased, sanded, filled, degreased, a little bit more filler, sanded, degreased, till it's all nice and smooth and all the cracks are filled. I've left the filler to dry for a few hours. Now we're on to the painting phase. So the first step is to use the Geist primer. One bottle of this was enough to prime the whole seat. The primer just forms a layer, a base layer if you like, that's going to help the paint stick to the leather better. If you weren't using the primer, the paint would abrade off the leather more easy. There's no real trick to this other than to put it on thin. If you're seeing runs, then you're putting on too much. You just want a nice thin layer. When it's wet, you see the shine of where you go, and you leave it for a few hours, up to 3 hours I think according to the instructions, to dry, and then you can put your paint layers on after that. So I'm going to leave this to dry now. Okay guys, so layer 1 is down. The seat's starting to look better, but you can still see the filler underneath, so we need to keep going and build up 3, 4 layers, especially perhaps in these contact areas. So I'm just going to dry this off with the hairdryer and then go on with layer number 2. Okay guys, so next the top coat. So at Ram's recommendation, I'm going to do about 60% matte top coat and mix that with 40% gloss clear coat and about 5%, my percentages have gone over 100 there, but you get the rough idea, about 5% cross linker. So I'll do about 40mm, 60mm and about 6mm. You can go up to 7%, so that's about correct on the percentages, and then that's going to give me not high gloss finish, not a matte finish, but somewhere in between. Okay guys, so now all the paintwork is done, so that's 1 layer of primer, dry it off, give it between 1 and 3 hours. Then I've done 3 to 4 layers of paint. In between each layer, dry it off, give it 15 minutes. On the final layer, I waited about an hour, made sure it's dry, then put on the top coat, which we mixed 60-40 with matte to gloss and about 5% hardener. And we used about 100ml of top coat overall, and probably put about 3 layers of top coat on, a little bit more on those really high contact areas that are heavily worn already. I'm going to wait 24 hours and then I'm going to put on the Geist leather coating, which is like a 1 year lasting anti-friction sealant as well, which is really going to help protect the finish, and I'll keep using this to try and minimise the amount of wear that goes on this seat. Ultimately it's the wear of the human being which is the enemy of this repair, but I'm really pleased with the results, and using the professional method with the top coat isn't that difficult. The principle is the same. Clean, degrease, sand if necessary to get smooth finish, degrease, fill, sand, degrease, fill if you need to again, sand, degrease after you sand, degrease. When you're happy with the prep, then you go ahead and primer, colour coat, top coat. I used a lot of filler on this, guys. I was like, that was the star of the show. The filler's a really cool thing because there was just so many gouges and cracks and all that sort of stuff. This is probably now, this leather seat is on its last legs, but I'm hoping this gives me another sort of like 5 years and it looks good, and that's the main thing. So it's due for reupholstery because the actual underlying leather is now beginning to really come on its last legs, but I'm really happy with the work done here. Huge thanks to Ram as always. This is the first time I've attempted this without him. He's given me a few little tips on the way. All the products are from Geist. They're available from leathercare.com. I'll link it in the description. The full range of painting products and all the professional products are on the Leathercare. Imran Into Detailing sells some of the maintenance products like this sealant and the cleaners and all that sort of stuff. But really cool. If you don't want to do the professional thing that we've done here with the spraying, because you've got to get the little compressor and the spray gun, which I'll link in the description, a tiny little airbrush and a compressor unit, which you could use, then Geist do this all-in-one system where it has the binders and the top coat already in it, so that really you just have to put the paint down and dry it. Which is very, very easy to do. The prep process is the same, but put the paint down, dry it, and that's it. You could put sealant on if you like. So there's different options there as well, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Really enjoyed this one. The interior of my E36 is now back to where it needs to be, thanks to Geist, and a huge thanks to Ram. Take care, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye for now.
Holding on